Los Angeles, California, Sherman Oaks District, March 17, 1990. Saturday afternoon, 2:15. The World Karate Association headquarters, a modest two-story building on a quiet corner, holds 150 people shoulder to shoulder. The air conditioning struggles against California heat and the collective warmth of martial artists from 12 countries. This is not a tournament. This is a seminar, a gathering of masters and serious practitioners who traveled from across continents to learn from one of the most respected names in martial arts history. At the front sits Chuck Norris, seven-time world karate champion, undisputed middleweight champion from 1968 to 1974, the man who defeated every top competitor of his era: Joe Louis, Mike Stone, Alan Steen. Chuck Norris proved himself when karate was raw, brutal, a genuine test of fighting ability. 6 feet tall, 175 pounds of lean muscle. At 50, he still trains 4 hours daily, maintains the same intensity that carried him through 200 tournament matches without a loss after 1968. But Chuck is also Hollywood now. Delta Force, missing in action. A cultural icon whose opinions carry weight far beyond the tournament circuit. When Chuck Norris speaks about martial arts, people listen. The seminar has run for 3 hours. Demonstrations of kata, breaking techniques, sparring strategies. Chuck showed classical Tang Soo Do forms, broke boards with precision kicks, explained mental discipline. The audience watched with rapt attention, taking notes, filming with camcorders. Education at the highest level. At 2:15, the seminar breaks for a press conference. 20 journalists sit in front rows, cameras ready. Chuck settles into the center chair, relaxed. This is routine now. He jokes with journalists, answers questions about upcoming films, discusses American martial arts, emphasizes traditional training over flashy demonstrations replacing solid fundamentals. 17 minutes in, a journalist from Black Belt magazine raises her hand. "Mr. Norris, there has been significant interest in Chinese martial arts, particularly practitioners from mainland China appearing in films here. What is your perspective? Do you see systems like wushu as legitimate martial arts, or more performance-oriented?" Chuck leans forward, measuring each word. "I have great respect for Chinese martial arts traditions. Wing Chun is practical close-range fighting. Hung Gar has excellent power. These are legitimate combat systems." He pauses. "However, there is a difference between martial arts developed for combat and those developed for demonstration. Modern wushu is primarily competitive sport focused on forms. It emphasizes flexibility, acrobatics, aesthetics. These athletes are incredibly talented, but what they do is not what we did in full-contact tournaments. We fought. We took real punches, real kicks. That is a different category entirely." Another journalist follows up. "You mentioned wushu athletes. There has been attention on Jet Li, 5-time national champion from China. He is being compared to Bruce Lee. What is your assessment? Does his background translate to legitimate skill, or is it performance-oriented?" Chuck shifts. He is being asked to comment on a specific individual. "Jet Li is obviously talented. 5 championships is impressive. He has excellent flexibility, technique for forms competition. The speed is remarkable. But there is a fundamental difference between being a champion of forms and a champion of fighting. I was a fighting champion. I competed where the goal was defeating your opponent through superior technique, timing, ability to deliver strikes. That is real application. Wushu athletes perform choreographed routines for judges. It is more akin to gymnastics than combat." He continues firmly but respectfully. "Could someone like Jet Li fight effectively? I do not know. He has never competed in full-contact tournaments. Until someone with that background does that, we cannot assess whether their skills translate. Tournament karate, when I competed, was real fighting." The room is quiet. Journalists write furiously. Chuck Norris questions whether wushu champion Jet Li could compete in real martial arts. The story writes itself. What Chuck does not know, what only 12 people in that room of 150 know, is that Jet Li is sitting in the audience. Row 14, seat 17. He arrived an hour ago as an observer, invited by a seminar organizer. He is in Los Angeles working on films, studying English, navigating the transition from Chinese sports hero to international action star. He came out of curiosity, wearing simple street clothes, black jacket and dark pants, sitting quietly among the crowd, unknown and unrecognized. But he heard every word. Heard the diplomatic tone, but also the clear implication. Wushu is performance, not combat. Jet Li is an athlete, not a fighter. The 12 who recognize him glance over, uncertain how he will react. One is Dan Inosanto, Bruce Lee's former student. Dan leans forward, watching. Jet Li's expression does not change. His hands rest in his lap, breathing steady. He does not look angry or offended. He simply listens, absorbs, and waits. The press conference continues 15 more minutes, then the seminar resumes. Chuck shows breaking techniques, explaining physics of focus and follow-through. He breaks 3 stacked boards with one side kick, the snap echoing. The audience applauds. Real power, real technique. At 3:45, seminar organizer Mr. Robert Wall announces a final demonstration period. Anyone wishing to share a technique can come forward. One hand rises. Row 14. Jet Li stands smoothly, raises his hand politely. Mr. Wall does not recognize him. Yes, sir? You have a question or technique to share? Jet Li's English is functional but accented. I have a request. I would like to participate in demonstration to show a technique, if Mr. Norris allows. Chuck shrugs, gestures forward. He does not recognize him either. Just another attendee wanting a moment. Jet Li walks down the aisle. The 12 who know sit up straighter. Dan whispers to his neighbor, "That is Jet Li. This is about to get very interesting." The whisper spreads through a small section. Most still do not know. Jet Li reaches the platform, shorter than Chuck by 6 inches, lighter by 40 pounds. Late 20s, calm expression. Chuck extends his hand, firm handshake. What is your name? Jet Li. No recognition. And what would you like to demonstrate? Jet Li chooses words carefully. I hear your press conference. You speak about difference between forms and fighting. I understand your point. But maybe demonstration can show something different, can show that speed from forms can also be effective, if you allow. Chuck processes this. The young man is politely challenging the press conference statement. His tone is respectful, demeanor calm. Chuck is intrigued. All right, what did you have in mind? You show power, breaking boards, very impressive. Power is important. But I would like to show something else. Speed and control, if you help me. Chuck's interest increases. How can I help? Stand. Hold target. I will strike. You count how many strikes you feel. Then we check with camera, slow motion. See if speed from wushu training has practical application. The audience murmurs. A speed test. Direct challenge to Chuck's statement. Chuck considers. Speed without power is largely irrelevant. He has faced the fastest strikers in karate, developed reflexes through 6 years of championship competition. But he is a gracious host. All right, let's see what you have. Mr. Wall retrieves a striking pad. Chuck straps it onto his left hand, positions himself in solid stance, pad at chest level. Jet Li stands 3 feet away, hands at sides. No obvious ready position. Natural stance, weight centered. To karate practitioners, he looks unprepared, casual. Ready when you are. Give me your best combination. I will count the strikes I feel. Jet Li nods. Okay, starting now. What happens next occurs so briefly most of the audience does not process it until the slow-motion replay. Jet Li's hands move. Not one strike, but continuous barrage. His fists travel from sides to pad and back in motions so fluid there is no visible wind-up, no chambering. Linear, direct, perfect center line. The sound is not heavy thuds but rapid staccato, a drumbeat, 10 distinct impacts compressed into a time frame the brain struggles to separate. Chuck feels impacts against the pad, feels his arm absorb force, the pad shake, but he cannot distinguish how many. Cannot separate individual punches from continuous flow. Too fast. His brain registers impact, multiple impacts, but cannot count them. The exchange lasts 2.3 seconds, then stops. Jet Li steps back, hands at sides, breathing normally, no exertion. Chuck stands holding the pad, expression shifting from confidence to confusion to genuine surprise. A man who has spent his life studying martial arts, faced every type of striker, prides himself on reading opponents. But he did not see what just happened, did not track the strikes, did not count them. The audience is silent, uncertain. It happened too quickly. Most saw a blur, heard impacts, could not process details. Chuck lowers the pad slowly. He looks at Jet Li with new eyes, the expression of someone encountering something outside his frame of reference. "How many strikes did you throw?" 10. Chuck shakes his head. "I felt maybe 2, maybe 3 distinct impacts, but it was continuous. I could not separate them." Jet Li remains calm. Fast combination, chain punching technique, Wing Chun base, but modified. Wushu training develops speed through repetition, forms practice, drilling single techniques 10,000 times. Same principle as kata, different application. Mr. Wall steps forward. "We have a slow-motion camera. Would you repeat the combination so we can review frame by frame?" "Yes, same combination." The camera operator switches to slow-motion mode. Chuck resets position. The audience leans forward, sensing they are witnessing something that will be discussed long after. Jet Li assumes the same stance. No preparation, no deep breath. He simply stands, then moves. Camera records at 120 frames per second. Hands blur again, same rapid-fire combination, same staccato impacts. 2.3 seconds, 10 strikes, stillness. The playback begins. In slow motion, the blur resolves into clarity. First strike, straight punch, right hand extending from center line to pad, impact, retraction. No wind-up. Punch originates 6 inches from chest, travels straight line to target and back. Economy of motion, minimal distance, maximum efficiency. Second strike follows immediately. Left hand, same trajectory. Third, fourth, fifth. Continue the pattern. Alternating hands. Each punch identical, each impact precise. No wasted movement. Shoulders do not rotate dramatically. Hips do not twist exaggeratedly. Power comes from structure, alignment, snap of conditioned tendons rather than mass and muscle. 10 individual punches. Total elapsed time, 2.34 seconds. Average per strike, 0.234 seconds. Faster than most people blink. Faster than most martial artists execute a single committed strike. The playback ends. Monitor freezes on final frame. The audience remains silent 3 full seconds, processing, trying to reconcile evidence with their understanding of human limits. Then whispers begin, spreading like ripples. "Did you count that? 10 punches in 2 seconds? How is that possible? He's not even breathing hard." Chuck watches the playback, the frozen image. His expression is difficult to read. Not anger, not embarrassment. Recognition, acknowledgement. A man who built his reputation on honesty, facing reality rather than retreating into ego. The truth he sees. This young Chinese athlete just demonstrated hand speed Chuck has never encountered in 6 years of championship competition. Decades of training with the fastest strikers in American karate. Chuck removes the pad, sets it aside, walks to Jet Li, extends his hand. That was extraordinary. I have never seen anyone move that fast. Not in tournaments, not in training, not in films. That speed is real. Jet Li responds with quiet respect. Thank you, but speed alone is not fighting. You are correct. Speed is one tool. Power, timing, strategy, mental toughness, these all matter. I do not say wushu is superior to karate. I only say both have value. Both develop skill. Different emphasis, both legitimate. Chuck nods slowly. You said your name is Jet Li? Context clicks. The 5-time national champion. From China. Yes, I compete in wushu forms, but I also train in practical application. Sanda, Chinese kickboxing, full contact, and Wing Chun for close-range work. Forms are foundation, but not complete training. Chuck processes this. The young man is not just a forms competitor. He has trained in full-contact combat, integrated different approaches, developed speed through forms, then applied it to fighting contexts. Not the one-dimensional practitioner Chuck assumed. A complete martial artist from a different tradition who achieved results that speak for themselves. Chuck speaks to the full audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to make a correction to something I said during the press conference. I stated that wushu is primarily performance-oriented, that forms competition does not translate to combat effectiveness. I made that statement based on general assumptions. But what Jet Li just demonstrated proves my assumptions were incomplete. Speed at this level, combined with precision and control, absolutely has combat application. I have competed against the fastest strikers in tournament karate, and I can tell you with certainty that the hand speed I just experienced is beyond anything I have encountered. He continues thoughtfully. This is an important lesson. We must be careful about making categorical statements about entire systems based on limited information. Every martial art has value when practiced correctly, integrated with realistic training, when the practitioner dedicates themselves to understanding both art and practical application. Jet Li has clearly done that. The result is genuinely impressive. The audience applauds. Not polite obligation, but genuine appreciation for what they witnessed, and Chuck's gracious acknowledgement. This is why people respect Chuck Norris beyond championships or film career. A man of integrity, willing to admit when wrong, revise understanding when presented with evidence. Jet Li bows slightly. Chuck returns the bow, places his hand on Jet Li's shoulder. Would you stay after the seminar? I would like to talk more, learn about your training methods. Yes, I would like that very much. The seminar concludes 20 minutes later. Many approach Jet Li with questions, wanting to know more. Dan Inosanto greets him warmly. That was perfect. You made your point without disrespecting him, without confrontation. Pure demonstration of skill. Jet Li shrugs modestly. I only show what I train. Mr. Norris is great champion. I have much respect, but sometimes assumptions need gentle correction. After the crowd disperses, Chuck and Jet Li sit together in a quiet corner. They talk for 40 minutes, comparing training methods, discussing differences between tournament karate and wushu competition. Chuck asks detailed questions about forms practice, repetition drills, how speed develops systematically. Jet Li explains training single techniques thousands of times, how muscle memory builds beyond conscious thought, how the body learns to move at speeds the mind cannot control. Chuck shares tournament insights, psychological aspects of facing opponents, conditioning the mind to remain calm under pressure. Before parting, Chuck makes a request. If you are staying in Los Angeles, I would like to train with you. Learn these techniques. I am always looking to expand understanding. Jet Li smiles. I would be honored, and I would like to learn from you, your tournament experience, strategy, wushu competition does not teach this. They exchange contact information, plan to meet the following week. The story spreads quickly through martial arts communities. Within days, footage is copied, distributed, discussed across the country. Within weeks, magazines run articles analyzing the technique. Within months, Jet Li's name recognition has increased exponentially. Chuck never backs away from his acknowledgement. In subsequent interviews, he is consistent. Jet Li showed me something I had not seen before, speed at a level I did not know was possible. It challenged my assumptions, and I am grateful. A true martial artist never stops learning, never stops questioning their understanding. That afternoon was a valuable lesson in humility and keeping an open mind. The two trained together over following months, a private exchange of knowledge both describe as mutually beneficial. They become friends, examples of how martial arts builds bridges between cultures rather than divisions. Years later, when Jet Li's film career explodes internationally, interviewers ask about his early days in America. Jet Li often references that afternoon in March 1990. Chuck Norris gave me credibility. He is a legend everyone respects. When he acknowledged my skill publicly, when he was willing to revise his statement and admit assumptions were incomplete, that opened doors. It showed the industry that wushu training has value, that Chinese martial artists can bring something unique and legitimate to action films. March 17, 1990. A seminar that was supposed to be routine, a press conference statement that was supposed to be uncontroversial. Instead, it became a defining moment. For Chuck Norris, a reminder that humility and open-mindedness are more valuable than ego, that true mastery includes recognizing excellence in others even when it challenges beliefs. For Jet Li, validation that his training methods, dedication, integration of traditional forms with practical application could stand alongside the best martial artists in the world. 150 witnesses, 20 journalists, one camera recording in slow motion, 10 punches in 2.3 seconds, a 7-time world champion acknowledging he had just seen something beyond his previous experience, something that expanded his understanding of what human speed and precision could achieve. This is the story of the day Chuck Norris learned that assumptions, no matter how well-intentioned, must always be tested against reality. And the day Jet Li proved that wushu, when trained correctly and integrated with practical combat experience, deserves to stand alongside any martial art in the world as a legitimate path to excellence.